This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jambo Jambo, welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a small elephant family grazing and some of them are just heading to the waterhole. Welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African wilderness. Good afternoon, everyone. Jambo Jambo. Welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have small elephant family grazing. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Today we have a nice weather, about 16 degrees Celsius, about 61 degrees Fahrenheit. This elephant family looks like they just came from a waterhole where some of them are mud bathing. You can see that elephant was digging with the use of her tusk. It's so important to have tasks like this mother here. So they use those tasks to dig out for minerals. Sometimes even when they want to mud wallow, they can at least scoop some soil and make a mud pool where they can use that. Please send us your comments and questions at #WildEarth on the YouTube comment section at FC, for the kids question at wildearth.tv. Please also visit our website www.wildearth.tv /explorers so that you can see what we have. So this day we have elephants and it looks like they're heading to this waterhole or small swamp. They're just close to us and it's very exciting to have elephants just calm and quiet close to the vehicle. We also have other people coming to enjoy this sighting. That tiny calf, so cute. While these elephants are enjoying this grass here, let's take you over to another live location.
Jambo Jambo, welcome to my side of the Mara. I am already at the beautiful Mara River. Those were Egyptian geese and they have left us. They've gone somewhere else. Look at that. Yeah, that was too short but sweet. Yeah, neither getting restless or getting angry. When hippos get angry, they gnaw their mouth or they show off They're huge canines that can do some damage. Good afternoon. I'm Isaac, and on camera we have Bungei. My mission was to come here to the river and see if we have a crossing, and after that I'm gonna look for lions. It's been a few days since I saw a lion, and I'm getting lion, thirsty, so I'm gonna try and find one later. But here at the river it's very quiet, apart from a few rapids here and there, and many hippos. There they are, scattered. Means that there is a few males that are not really welcome to this pool, and so they are living distance away. This river starts a long way back in the Mau escarpment and drains into Lake Victoria. Before it gets there, it's got very many tributaries, including the Talek River, the Sand River. Those are the ones here in the Mara, but further up there is more rivers that drain into it. Never dries up, but does go low. A few years back it was threatened by people collecting too much water upstream for farming and nearly dried, but due to government intervention and private entities, it is back to normal. Of course, it was going to be a serious threat if it had dried up, because hippos need water constantly and throughout their life. Crocodiles and fishes that we find here, we have a few species of fish that love this kind of water, the mudfish, the catfish, and so it is always flowing, providing enough water for all the animals in the main Mara and also the Mara Triangle. Distance-wise, from source to exit, it's about 300 kilometers, plus minus, so it's a long way, and it meanders across the Mara and parts of northern Serengeti. I don't know in liters how much water it takes into Lake Victoria, but one fact is that the oxygen level during the day on this river is quite low because of all the hippo droppings. All the methane usually cuts down the oxygen, and so it is quite low. This was noted when the river went down as a result of a few fish floating and dying, and they did a research and find out that the oxygen level was really reduced during the day, but at night when the hippos left the water, it was higher. Quite interesting, but that's the way it was. Of course, in the months of July, August, September, it is the highlight of the animal season, the migration. This is where we come to see if there is anything. We come and park here for hours and on ending, because there is always animals on the other side trying to come to this side, or come to this side going to the other side. Very entertaining, but it can be, very boring if you don't like it, but I love it. Let me reposition, see if we can see some crocodiles up there. Well, while I do that, let's take you to another live location.
So we are sitting at a little marsh area, and I noticed that white bubble on the bottom of that riverthorn tree. It's actually a nest of a foam nest frog, and it's one of my favorite little frogs that you can find here. Beautiful gray color. But I love sitting in this area because it's fantastic for birds, especially this time of the afternoon in the heat. My name's Tessa and I'm going to be your guide on safari today at and beyond Ngala. And behind the camera we have Sebastian. And this afternoon I'm really hoping with this heat that we can maybe go down to the dam, hopefully see some elephants swimming. But until now, we're actually going to sit here and see if there's any interesting birds. There have been reports of some greater painted snipes as well as a rufous-bellied heron here, and both of them are not very common at and beyond Ngala. So I'm just going to spend 5 minutes here and just see, hopefully I see some movement in the grasses around the edges. Maybe we'll even see those foam nest frogs somewhere. At the moment, there's just some eggs in there, maybe even hatching into tadpoles to drop into the water below. So we're going to sit here for a few more minutes and then we're going to head on down to the dam.
Good afternoon. The sun is finally out in Tswalu Private Game Reserve. So with the sun coming out, so do the reptiles. And that's not me. I am referring to this male triagama. Male because his head is bright blue. My name is Lauren and I do have Theo on camera this afternoon. And I haven't spotted a triagama in quite some time. So we've came to the usual suspect of trees, this huge jackalberry, and there sits the male. Now, it's been very overcast the past few days, which is possibly why we haven't seen so many reptiles being active. But here we go. It's now 31 degrees Celsius and 88 degrees Fahrenheit here, which is hot. Reptiles are solar powered. They really can't go very far if they've not had some energy from the sun. So they go into a very sort of short-term dormancy. They're still active, but if they've not been powered by those gorgeous rays, then they're not really able to do much else. So they just become very inactive. Look at that bright blue. Isn't it fabulous? You could really have some lovely eyeshadow with that bright blue. Now, normally the male, when he's bright blue like this, he's seeking a female. Of course he is. So I wonder if there's a female nearby. And when they do see a female, they'll bob their head up and down. This is quite a common behavioural trait that you see in reptiles. My old bearded dragon used to do it too. It's not just to attract the females, it's also to establish territory. They can also do it when they're hunting too. So normally they bob their head up and down, like they're agreeing, like they're saying the word yes with their head. And it has numerous meanings. So I imagine this gorgeous jackalberry here will be this male's territory. And he may not go much further. Reptiles can't go very far. They definitely don't migrate. The ultimate water drinker. What a fabulous name. Are you taking the title of being the ultimate water drinker? I love water too. And I'm glad you like water. It's good. Stay hydrated, children and adults. Stay hydrated. Yes, it looks just like a bearded dragon. I used to have one called Floyd Mayweather. Don't ask any more questions. My brother named it. And they're very similar. Bearded dragons are a lot bigger. This triagama's actually quite small. Slightly longer than my hand. It's hard to obviously give scale when you're seeing it on a screen, but it's actually quite small. It's not a large reptile. But extremely fierce, and when you are territorial in any species, be it a fish, be it a reptile, be it a mammal or a cat like a leopard, you have to behave territorial, and that normally comes with aggression of some sort. And they can be very aggressive to one another, including biting and whipping with their tail. They whip one another with that tail at such speed that it's extremely painful. The reptiles don't need to eat as often as mammals do. They're not as active. Look at this one, doing nothing. sure. The most trees I think they can choose any trees, to be honest, but the most sightings I've had with agamas out here are jackalberries, the sort of larger of the trees, and the balanites. They're the trees that I often spot agamas in, but I'm really not sure if they have sort of specific types of trees that they prefer to be in. I think those larger trees that grow extremely tall with large branches are more suitable, and rough bark, because they use their claws to hang on. This individual here is not quite upside down, but almost. He's clinging on, defying gravity using those sharp claws. He's probably hooked into some rough part of the bark. If the tree was completely smooth, maybe like a combretum, that probably wouldn't work. There's not enough space, it's not big enough, and the bark is far too smooth. You can hear all the birds in the background. I did not catch that name, but I'm going to bring out my book right now because I have a funny feeling looking at an image is going to be a lot easier to explain this than my terrible descriptions. So give me one moment. I'm going to bring out my book and you will see how bland the females look. They do not have this bright blue head. They're nowhere near as exquisite. Okay, Theo, I'll try and hold this book without it blowing away. And the female is where my porcupine pointer is. So they do have shades of blue on their head, but really, they're nowhere near as exquisite or bright. And that's how you can tell the difference. They sometimes do go slightly blue along their spine, if you like, but it's nowhere near, we just look at the male here, as unmistakable as this male on the other side. Over here, Theo, the male. You see it's sort of turquoise at the top, and then as it goes down from the neck, the blue changes shade, but it's still extremely blue. And it's for breeding, it's to attract the females. I don't know if I could say no to a blue-headed male. It's such a fabulous colour. How could anyone say no? So yes, that's what the females look like. So immediately you know, if you see a tree agama in the tree and it sort of doesn't have that bright coloration, you can be safe to guess that it's a female. He's now hanging the right way up. Oh, what a perfect start to the afternoon. I do love a good reptile sighting. So we're going to head to all the water holes and you're going to bumble off to some other live location.
So we managed to find a couple of old buffalo bulls. Lauren, fortunately or unfortunately for these bulls, they don't display in bright colors like that tree agama that you have. But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jared, and we have we're down here in the southern parts of Ambion Phinda Private Game Reserve with 3 buffalo bulls. And the plan for this afternoon is to come into the southern parts of the reserve. And the reason why is we had reports of a female cheetah that was seen yesterday in this part of the reserve that has 5 brand new cheetah cubs. Now, when I say brand new, not as out of the box kind of new, but about 2 to 3 months old, which will be really, really exciting to see, and really not too far from where we are now. Maybe 200-300 meters behind where these buffalo are now is where that cheetah was seen. And what is even more exciting is that it is a female who she has her cubs for the first time. Now, the reason why I say that is exciting is that with leopards, we know that leopard mothers who are first-timers seem to be far more successful with their cubs than what older leopards are, and it is very similar with cheetah as well. First-time cheetah mothers or newer mothers tend to be far more successful in raising their youngster than
older females. And that might just be because they're far more caring, a little bit more nervous, so they're checking up on the cubs far more, whereas an older female would probably leave them for a little bit longer, take a few more risks. And we've got these 3 old bulls here. Now you think, no problem at all. You've got 3 big buffalo bulls a couple 100 meters away from where some cheetah cubs were seen yesterday. And you might not know this, but buffalo bulls are known to kill predator cubs. So often seen, well, not often seen, but seen more so with lion cubs. Lions are a threat to buffaloes, particularly older bulls like this, and they want to eliminate any threat, whether it be an adult lion, which buffaloes can kill, or lion cubs. And I am certain that if they were able to get to those young cheetah cubs, they would also try and kill them. And what they would do is you would see those big helmets on the top of their head known as a boss. Oh, he's busy hearing me talking about cheetah cubs. And he would basically just drive that youngster into the ground with those horns and then try and get the sharp part of the horns into the cubs. Fortunately, though, at about 2-3 months old, those cheetah cubs are already quite nimble. And you can see that this area that we're in, there's lots and lots of guarri trees here. These are the trees that are around the thicket here, known as a magic guarri. And I'm pretty sure that those youngsters would easily be able to hide from these buffalo. Now, the reason that these buffalo here, and we've seen quite a few buffalo this morning while looking for these cheetah, and the cheetah here is that the pride of lions that you watched this morning with Deerwald, the Beala pride, this is within their territory, but over the last maybe 4 or 5 months, they very seldom have come into this area where we are now. And so these buffalo, this female cheetah, they know that this is the best area on the reserve at the moment to be able to survive. And fortunately, with the rains that we've had recently, you can see the buffalo on the left busy chewing the cud. But as you all know, buffalo eat grass. But not only buffalo eat grass, impala and a few of the other antelope will be feeding on this nice lush grass. And recently with the rains, we've had a big influx of antelope into this area. Impala, zebra, wildebeest as well. Although a female cheetah probably wouldn't try her luck with an adult wildebeest or cheetah. Wildebeest or zebra. But it is the time of year when everyone is dropping their young, and in particularly the impala. And so I think that this female cheetah is within this area to keep away from the lions, but to take advantage of the influx of antelope that have come into this area. But she'll do well to avoid these buffalo. If she walks across this area, these older bulls may chase her away. They are very, very grumpy. If it was a herd of buffalo with females and calves, they would probably just watch or actually move off a little bit from predators. But these older bulls that we have here, they would most certainly do their best to chase that female. Even though they know that she's probably not a threat towards her, they're not going to take their chance. Now you'll notice that there are only 3 of them. There's no herd, and that is because these males are just far too old to be able to keep up with the herd. They are also baked in mud at the moment, and we have had quite a few hot days. The one on the right looks like it's probably been in mud the most recent, and then the one on the left maybe yesterday or the day before. A lot of that mud's already started to dry off. And after they go up to the mud and they bake themselves in the mud, they will go up to a tree and rub up against the side of their body. And that's why you also notice that most of the mud that you can see is on their ridge, around their spine. Everything on the side has been brushed off when walking through these thickets or rubbed off when rubbing on trees. You also see all the battle marks that these males have. If you look at their boss, which in French is hump, and that's where they get their name of their horn, their hump on top of their head, you'll notice that their boss is also very well worn down, lots of cracks, and that's a bit of a combination of rubbing up against trees and thrashing against trees. You might actually see some bark on that male on the left. There's a lighter color on the top of his boss, and that is from bark while just rubbing his horns up against the trees. But most of that damage on top of their horns would be from these males fighting. Now, at this age, they don't tend to fight as much. They're not too worried about being a dominant male, because dominance within buffalo comes down towards mating rights. and not necessarily trying to be a territorial buffalo, because buffaloes aren't territorial. They have home ranges, so they would never fight for a territory. They're just fighting for mating rights. Now I'm trying to have a look to see which buffalo I think would be the dominant of these three if they were to get in the fight. And it's a tough one, but the male on the left looks like he's still in the best condition. Lots of muscle around his neck, pretty big boss, which obviously helps a bit when fighting, whereas that further male in the back, much smaller boss, he's probably or would be the least dominant of these three males if they were to fight. Also, his muscle starting to deteriorate, so he's probably the oldest of them, as well as the weakest of them. Paul, who is 17 years old, that is a very good question. How big can a buffalo horns get? Now, one of the things that I absolutely love about buffalo horns is that the shape of them. And so you'll get kind of like two very distinctive type of shapes. You'll get the shape where there's a deep curl to the shape, and then you'll get a shape which is got quite a wide horn. Now, the widest horn that I've ever seen, Paul, from tip to tip, was probably close to about a meter or so. But exactly how big the horns will be able to get, that I cannot answer. That male that's standing up now to the right, I mean, he's a fairly average to large bull size for his horns. So they're not going to get much bigger than that, but they will still get a little bit bigger. This male on the left paw also has a beautiful set of horns. Now, different people find different horn structures attractive. I like to see a very deep curl to the horns, where neither of these males here have a deep curl. And when I say a deep curl, where you look where it's starting to curl down, when I like to see the curl almost going past the ears and then coming back up and around, and then sort of just higher than the top part of their boss, the middle part of their hump. So although these males have been resting in this area where they are now, they're most likely probably not going to sleep here. You'll see that although it is open, it's just a great area to graze, but it is very thick around with lots of these guari trees. And although I said earlier that we haven't had too much lion activity in this area, it doesn't mean that the lions don't ever come here. And these buffaloes will know that whether they've picked up on the scent of lions in this area or not over the last while, they still need to make sure that wherever they rest at night is the safest place. Now, in front of the vehicle, maybe only a couple of 100 meters away, is a massive open area. And I'm pretty sure that these three males are going to head off into that area a little bit later. The reason why they're probably not there now is that because that area is very open, there's been lots of movement of zebra and wildebeest and even rhino in that area, and they've been grazing the grass quite short. And so these three males have probably come to this area, although it's not entirely safe with all these thickets. There is still some lush green grass, and not too far from where we are now is also some water. So they're just moving between areas that they sleep at night to some watering holes, and then back again to sometimes the same area. These three buffalo bulls will probably sleep in a very similar area quite often, whereas the herds tend to move and sleep in different areas each night.
So I've just arrived at Clara Dam here at and beyond Ngala. It's a beautiful big dam in the east, and we've got a whole herd of elephants that's just climbed out of the waterhole. Some of them even look like they're wearing socks. They've got these dark marks on their legs. And we're watching the herd walk past us. There's still a few stragglers coming at the back. But I've always just loved how quietly they walk. They almost get a camouflaged look about them when they're half wet and half dry. So this is quite a large breeding herd. There's mothers, there's some youngsters, and there's even 1 or 2 young males in this herd. What's really, really awesome about this is we don't often get to spend that much time with a big herd of elephants in complete silence around them. But if you have a listen, you can't even hear them moving. You just hear the occasional sounds of feeding. The little ones are learning how to use their trunks. It must be incredibly hot for them today. There's definitely something special about spending time with elephants. Absolutely incredible to be with them.
We have another family that has come to join. You can see they've just come from a mud bath. They're all looking wet. They have a leader. The matriarch has just come from that small mud bath. Unfortunately, we could not see them because they were actually in a small creek. Mud plays an important role for these elephants because it helps them cool their body. It helps them get rid of parasite, because after mud bath or mud wallowing, they will go and scratch against a tree, and then also it prevents them from the biting bugs, the ticks, and other biting insects that might irritate them. It's reckoned that mud bath helps them cooling about 8 times better than water. What are elephant called in Swahili? The proper Swahili name for elephant is tembo, but we also sometimes call them ndovu. So tembo is what we call them in Swahili. Some of these patches have not been grazed, and Dion, have I ever been chased by elephants? When I was young, when I was herding cattle, I came to a water point. It was during the dry season, and so I was tending after cattle, so they were all drinking, and then all of a sudden, elephants walked in, and they actually had to chase the cows and me. So what happened? I had to climb up a tree. So during the dry season, elephants always gather at water point, and sometimes because of their task, they will dig places in the river for water. So if they find other animals around a water hole, be it hippo, buffaloes, all those animals that are close to that water hole during the dry season, elephants have to chase them. But it was because we were at that water hole, so everyone was scrambling for space, that water. So that's the reason why we got chased. But that was the only incident that I faced with elephants.
So I've been watching this young male elephant splashing himself with water. He's actually, interestingly enough, moved away from the big dam towards one of the smaller puddles on the side. And he's really having a good time splashing himself with that water under his chest where he's really hot. So you can see he's a different color on the front than on his back. And he's having such a good time splashing. See how carefully he's walking around the edge of the water. That's amazing. I'm just going to swing the vehicle around for us. So this dam, Clara Dam at Anbiondangala, is definitely one of my favorite areas to be. There's hippos in the dam, there's often buffaloes around. And especially in the afternoons, it's really wonderful for elephant sightings. He's actually sniffing the ground there. Have a look at that. He's sniffing where one of the other elephants has defecated, maybe even urinated. So he's actually testing that urine to see maybe how old the female is. And you see that he put it in his mouth? He's actually testing what kind of cycle she might be in. Because young males like this tend to follow a breeding herd in case there might be a female that would be ready to come into estrus. He's actually quite young for mating, but it's not impossible for him at this age. And he's following the herd that we had here just now at quite a distance. So those females are going to be quite protective of their little ones. The hippos are making a noise as well. And it's always amazed me when elephants have somewhere in mind that they're going, they tend to go with quite a mission. So they know where they're going, they walk in a straight line and they go straight there. And I think these hippos are finally relaxing again that they have their water hole back. It's always something that amazes me as well, is how upset the hippos get when the elephants come into the water. There's actually 2 young calves in this pod of hippos as well. So I think that's also a reason why they would get a bit more upset than normal, wanting to protect the little ones. Flicking their ears. Have a listen to all of the sounds around us. There's hippos, birds. There's even a buffalo in the background. Absolutely beautiful. There's even some swallows dipping into the water next to the hippos. It's one of the reasons why I think guides particularly love summer when there is water available, because there's always something happening at a waterhole like this, whether it's the knob-billed ducks or the white-faced whistling ducks, Egyptian geese with goslings, hippos, all the swallows diving, even herons fishing. It's always entertaining. I feel like it's a good place to learn something new every day as well. Poor hippos will immerse themselves in water all year round if they can. They've got incredibly sensitive skin that is not only sensitive to sunburn but also to losing water from their bodies, and so they need to be underwater as much as possible. So even in winter, if this waterhole dries up, they'll walk incredible distances, kilometers and kilometers, to find a waterhole that still has water in it. And that's where the territorial battles really start to kick in, because they'll all want to fight over what little water is left. But without water, especially, in our winters here, we can sometimes get up to 35 degrees Celsius still. On those hot days, if hippos don't have water, they start to lose water incredibly quickly. They overheat and they get very badly sunburned, and so they can actually die of dehydration because of that. So it is very important for them to immerse themselves always. They'll only come out at night. There's actually some buffalo bulls that are coming down, I think. But they're still quite well hidden in the shade. I think they were still a bit unsettled from those elephants. So it'll be interesting to see if they also come down and have a mud bath. So I think I'm going to spend a few more minutes here, see what else comes down towards the dam, and just enjoy all the sounds around us.
Yes, from buffalo and water to crocodiles and water. I'm still parked here on the banks of the beautiful and the one and only Mara River. And can you see the crocodiles? If you didn't know exactly what you're looking at, you'd actually miss them. Those two are very light colored. Most crocodiles in this section are quite old and much darker. I think it's with age, but females tend also to be slightly lighter. Those two looks like they've eaten so well, it's a matter of warming up. They're cold-blooded, and so to regulate their body temperature, they have to sun like that. This is the apex predator of the Mara River, and the technique it uses is to use its very strong jaws to hold on to a wildebeest, a zebra, a topi, and then quickly pulling it under and holding it for as long as it can. And usually the animal, if it tries to struggle, it does what we call the death roll, and usually that really does the total damage. So they have that technique that they use, and apart from them, what else do we have? Oh, there is one behind there. Look at that. He's right behind that little bush. Looks like it's a massive one, swimming upstream slowly. They have these stretches of river where they hang to for as long as they live. Of course, they live up to around 80 years. An animal that is built to stay in water because it can swim very fast, up to 30 kilometers per hour, and can stay underwater for very long. Apart from them, we do have these beautiful nests here, and they are made by one of our weavers called the village weaver. The reason they're called the village weavers is they can take over an area of a tree or a part of a tree completely, filling it with nests. Like you see, that one is very fresh, the very green one. So it's under construction. They can fill it with nests, and if you come very early or late evening, it sounds like a village. Very, very, very noisy. Of course, it is an advantage to have a nest hanging over water and also on a tree with those many thorns like that. Do you see that one with a little green grass building? It is very strenuous and hard work for the males when they build these nests, because they go fetch the grass and build the nest. It might take up to around 4 days to fully complete. And then the next part usually is to bring a female and actually try to impress the female to move in. They usually have to dance a lot, flips their wings, a lot of body language to try and impress the female. And if the female is into breeding with that male, then it goes inside. If it likes the nest, then it does the interior, where it will fly distances and bring all sorts of material from feathers, wool from different trees, like the wild camphor that produces, wool, silk from different spiders, and actually line it so well and warm inside. Then they will mate, and that's the beginning of another life. If she doesn't like it, and it does happen, she comes out and goes to where the nest is attached. Amali, you want to know if village weavers migrate? No, they don't. They are residents, and they're spread out all over Kenya and Tanzania, so they don't migrate, they are residents. I was talking about if the female doesn't like the nest, it is very sad for the male, because he goes to where the nest is attached to the tree and cuts it, and it drops down to the water and it's washed downstream. Immediately, the male doesn't lose hope. He gets back to work and starts building a new nest, because he really have to sire future offsprings of his own, and that's what happens. So it is quite a job for the male, and to show his love for the female, he has to build another nest quite quickly before the female is taken by another male. The river still flows. All those guys there, they're like me. They've come here hoping to see either, something cross. We have impala. Impalas don't cross, and they don't need to. They have enough grass and browse. but not very far from the impala. I will position slightly. You will see we have toppies, and those 4 might cross because they've been around this section of the river for quite a bit. That is toppy, and also they do migrate like the zebra and the wildebeest. When they cross, I don't know. Antionate, do the wildebeest and zebra return to the Mara? When the right time comes, they will come back. That is the months of, July, August, and September is when we see them here. They could stay here for longer, but it is necessary for them to get to southern part of the Serengeti, because there it is safe and also good for females who are ready to give birth. They go to give birth there, and then they come here to, feed on the highly nutritious red hot grass. Okay, guys, it looks like it is getting interesting. Oh, he fell into tall grass. I hope that won't deter him, so that we can see the only 4 bravest toppy crossing. Usually, unlike zebra and wildebeest, toppy don't waste much time. When they get to the water, they just go. And if they're not crossing, they just go back. The need to cross with these 4 is very high because they've been wandering around this area quite a bit. Looks like they are relaxing, but it doesn't mean that it is over, that they won't cross. The crocodiles usually are the ones that deter them from crossing. But today I don't see very many, although when any animal hits the water, they just appear because we cannot see them because of their good camouflage. Yeah, looks like it's heading outwards. So it's one of those waiting game again. It's always very exciting when they almost cross. Well, I think the best thing for me is to take you to another live location while we wait here.
Welcome back to the other side of the Mara. Our elephants are still gathering, and you can see there's lots more who've just come in for a drink. That little one is playing with water there, splashing water. So elephants will drink about daily, and this happens twice in a day. So early in the morning when they head off from that escarpment there, heading towards the marsh, they'll be drinking, and then coming back from the marsh, you can see they're also drinking. It's very nice to see them all gathered here drinking. And because they have daily access to water, so they don't drink as much of what we know elephants drink. So elephants can drink about 107 liters at one go, but because there's always availability of water, so they don't have to drink that much on a daily basis. It's reckoned that a full trunk can hold up to about 10 liters of water. but sometimes they don't really fill their trunks up with water, just holding some few sips and then pushing them into the mouth. Eshwar, why do elephants have tusks? Elephants have tusks because they help them in when elephants are foraging. Sometimes they will resort to peeling off barks from trees. So the elephant tusk is actually quite handy because they'll peel off the bark on trees. They will help push down the trees. They'll also help dig for mineral during the times that they need minerals in their body. They also help them when they're digging for water. When the rivers dry, you find that elephants will come to a place where they know very well that it's good source of water, so the tusk come in handy to dig. And also, it's a good tool for defense, especially for the bulls. Bulls will use their tusk to fight, so it's a defensive tool. It's also a tool that is used to dig for minerals and also take out barks from trees. So thanks to the matriarch, they know that this place has very nice clean water because it's actually spring water. This is water that comes from underground. They've left all the way from the river and come here to drink because this water is still very pure, fresh, soft, clean water. So the matriarchs will pass this to their generation and generation to come. So every member of these families will also use this or utilize this place as they carry on with their lives. Females that don't leave the natal herds, whoever becomes a matriarch, and also those young females. So in future, when they're mid 30s and 40s, they'll still come back to this area. So it never runs dry. These are spring waters which never run dry. So thanks to the matriarchs who came and found about this. So the intelligence plays a very important role in these elephant families because they have the roadmaps of where to go find clean water, where to go find mineral, where to go find good forage. And these are places where these elephants will visit on a daily basis. Phase kindergarten class. How big are elephant ears? Elephant ears consist of about 20% of the entire body size. So when you look at every elephant, so that ear part is consisting of about 20% of that entire elephant. So that is how big the elephant ears are when you just look at them. So we have the last ones to join. Inamu, what does it mean when an elephant swings its trunk? So there's very many signs to look when an elephant is swinging the trunk. So I have to check if the elephant is trumpeting, the elephant's ears are wide open, the head is tilted up. So when they're aggressive, that is what they'll tend to do. They'll just swing it on side to side when they're walking towards a threat. But when in a relaxed mode, especially on the bulls, they'll just swing it just like that. So it is a mode of relaxation when the elephants like swinging their tusks, or trunk rather. So you can tell that spot is used regularly because each and every elephant comes to that particular spot. So they follow that daily routine where it's passed through every member of the family, and thanks to the matriarchs. All elephants seems like they've just come from a mud wallow, so it means that when they're walking from the ponds where we have the marsh, they go to the same spot where there's mud wallow or mud bath, and then carry on, come here to drink. As you can see, each member is just coming to that particular spot or this area. How does the heat affect elephants? Elephants, when they feel the heat, they tend to lose a lot of water through their body skin. And so it's reckoned that they can lose more water, especially when it's super, super hot. And so the reason for them to mud bath is just to protect them from losing that moisture. So they need their skin to be moisturized. So the reason why they have to plaster their bodies with mud. So it affects them by losing more water, so dehydration, they get dehydrated easily. So there's need for them to drink on a daily basis and also to cover their bodies with mud. There's a nice elephant family coming. What a beautiful family. You can see the matriarch leading them, and then there's about 3 or 4 older females. So those should be sisters to the matriarch. And you can see lots of them have calves, those young ones. So these sisters together with the matriarch are the ones that lead these families. And you can see one is actually on the tail end and there's one leading. So they have to ensure that every member of the family is in their watchful eyes. And there's more coming at the back. Wow, it seems like a elephant day. It's interesting because they use the same path. Just watch that path, and another family that will join in, you still use the same path. So this means that that is a regularly used path by these elephants.
Well, I'm still here at the river waiting and hoping that those toppies that have been teasing me for the last almost 45 minutes that they're going to cross are going to cross. But while I'm here, yeah, it's nice to see this huge guy. I cannot exactly say if he's floating or he's just holding on to a rock underneath. He's one of the biggest guy in this section, an easy 18, 19 feet, and at that length they can easily weigh up to around 750, 800 kilos. That is, heavy enough to hold on to a wildebeest underwater with ease, making them very, very, very dangerous. Crocodiles don't have, cutting teeth. They have all carnassial teeth through, and so to cut and reduce the size of the meat for them to swallow, they will normally grab it and then roll. They sometimes need one another to act as an anchor, so tearing can become easier. And so they're quite, capable of tearing huge chunks of meat and then pulling down their head out of water. They can swallow, anything from 5 to 10 kilos with ease, and they need lots and lots of chunks.
So it's no surprise to me that while looking for this female cheetah and her cubs and moving through these open areas that we've been able to find a white rhino, because we know that white rhinos love to eat grass, and you can see that this area that they're in at the moment is very grassy. But they're actually just passing through here at the moment. We spotted them off in a distance, probably about 300-400 meters from where we are now, and we've slowly been watching them walk this way to where I've parked the vehicle, and they're looking like they're heading into the direction of a water hole to go have a late evening drink. And the reason that they've just stopped in their tracks is that my wind is actually currently blowing from me to her and her older calf. You can see her head is up, and that immediately tells me with a white rhino that they're very inquisitive in something. White rhinos, when they walk, their head is generally down to the ground. And that's one of the ways we can tell the difference between a white and black rhino, is that normally their head is about, as you can see on the calf on the left, about a foot from the ground. But with it being up in the air like that, she's trying to use her sense of smell to smell me. With the wind going from me to her, she can most certainly smell myself in the vehicle. And using that poor vision of her to try and see me over the couple of shrubs that are between me and her. You'll see very small eyes, so that immediately would kind of give it away that their eyesight is poor. I think we overestimate or underestimate how bad their eyesight is. It's actually a little bit better than what we give them credit for. But at about 30 meters, it's pretty good. And then as it just gets further and further away, it becomes a little bit more of a blur. But from this distance where we are now, she can most certainly make out the vehicle and us in it. And I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't get moving soon. The moment she walked down one from us, she stopped, just having a look, and she will continue on. Now, the calf to her right is a young male, and I expect that this female is actually pregnant. Generally, when the calves are around a year or so, they may mate even before that. They would be pregnant, and at about 2.5, 3 years old, they will typically kick their calves out. And if I'm having a look at the size of her belly, she does look a little bit rounder than normal. But particularly with rhinos, you look how sort of low set that belly is. So the belly's pretty close to the ground, and as she becomes more and more pregnant, that distance between her belly and the ground will shrink dramatically. And unfortunately for this calf is just before she gives birth, she will kick this young male out. Fortunately for him, there is a healthy population of rhinos in this area where we are now, so he won't have to go too far to find company. In fact, just off to our left, where I can see some zebra and wildebeest and a giraffe, maybe about 2 minutes ago, I saw 3 rhinos walking in and amongst them. And when he gets kicked out, he'll become a satellite calf and go follow a female, maybe with a calf about this age, or a couple of other younger calves that have been kicked out recently. Now, they haven't been feeding too much around, and you'll notice that the grass is really short. Where we were with the buffaloes earlier, the grass was much longer, and that is just because of the sheer movement of animals that have been moving through here during the rains and after the rains, that they've been cutting the grass quite low to the ground. Rhinos in particular, but zebra and wildebeest and the herds of buffaloes will be moving through this area here almost daily. And so their choice of sweet grasses or pioneer grasses is a little bit limited here. You'll see that the calf now, as I start to say that, is starting to feed. The mother's not feeding yet. And they've got a very interesting technique while feeding. So these white rhinos, also known as wide-lipped rhinos, will use that very wide lip to pull on the grass. And they move their head from left to right, just slightly, to pull on the grass and break it off right above the ground. And you'll often find in an area like this where they've been grazing for a couple of months, it almost looks like someone's come through with a lawn mower. And we call that area a rhino lawn, where you can see a group of rhinos has completely mowed the grass down, almost to their roots. You'll notice as she keeps her one ear on me, listening to me talk to you, she'll often use her other ear to listen what's around. You'll see that with a lot of the animals, but rhinos more so than everyone. Their ears are very seldom pointing in the same direction. Because of their poor eyesight, they rely heavily on their sense of smell, which obviously she's using very well now to smell us, as well as their sense of hearing. And so there's ears, you can see the calf also on the left. When the one goes forward, the other one goes back and just swivels it, almost like the eyes of a chameleon, listening for any potential danger around. Now, although that calf is grazing, I think it could still be suckling. I'm trying to have a look to see how swollen this female's mammary glands are. But rhinos will typically suckle sometimes up to 1.5 years. And it would be a little bit tricky for this calf to suckle. Younger calves, they will just stand up and be able to suckle. Mom would stand just how she is. But when they're getting to about 1 year or so, they have to wait down for the mother to roll over or roll onto her side. Now I'm just going to keep a little bit quiet, because as she starts to approach us, if I don't make too much noise, she might come walk right on by, which will be really exciting. Paul, that's a very interesting question. And if you were with me maybe a month ago, I was lucky enough to see white rhinos mating for the very first time. So, Paul, I'm not sure if you're asking for the entire process of the courting process, which can last for weeks. And depending on when they mate, if the male is successful with the whole mating process, he may only mate once or a handful of times. Sometimes with younger males who struggle to be able to mate successfully with the female, you'll see them climb up onto the back and try and position in the right area. And this has been seen to take maybe 10, 15 minutes sometimes to be able to mate successfully. And I have also read that someone once watched rhinos mating, and the male actually fell asleep on the back of the female. And she just stood there, and this went on for about half an hour or so. But the physical mating process of rhinos is not too long. He'll have to climb up on her about 30 seconds to a minute, and he'll be able to climb off it. You can imagine it's very difficult for a 2-ton plus male to be able to mount a female rhino. She's just listening to me talking about mating. Something that she probably didn't do too long ago. So at this age, the calves aren't overly inquisitive, still a little bit. But one of my favorite things is when we're out and we find rhinos with calves is when they're around 3 to 6 months old, they will often come and investigate the vehicle. And they do this incredibly strange thing when they get excited. And it's one of my favorite things to see is a young rhino excited. They buck and rear and run and buck and rear and turn and do 360s. And one of the probably last times they're going to be able to buck and rear until they get old and heavy and can't really do much, but run incredibly fast. So you'll notice, not concerned about us at all. More than happy to just walk on by. The fact that she's grazing now as well, she's comfortable with our presence. She was watching us earlier, just trying to figure out what is what. As she's come a little bit closer, she's obviously recognized exactly what we are. We're this familiar being that keeps following her. And so has completely just relaxed and started to graze.
We're in the Molwati, and we've spotted one of the spotted eagle owls, the parents. Now, there is actually a difference, or maybe there are many differences between the male and female in physical appearance, but on a visual comparison of the two, you can tell which one's male and which one's female. Hello. Now, Theo just gave you a beautiful wide shot there, and the area is what we always called Sebwick's house. This was the original and only place we always used to find Sebwick. Not the nesting site, that's slightly off to the right, but the actual sort of house that we saw Sebwick day in and day out was here. So it's quite interesting that the adult's back here again. Now, I know many of you are asking day after day about Olivia, and I just can't find her. So, of course, that means one of two things has happened. Either she's moved with the parents and she's just really, really well hidden and the vegetation is very thick here, or she didn't make it. And, of course, I don't want to think that. I hope that she's maybe just moved and we just can't see her. So at this stage, it's worth checking every single day. But the parents will roost in this area no matter what during the day. And the last sighting we had of her, which was with myself, I think, she had moved. We were horrified to see that she had moved anyway. So she was obviously mobile, not using her wings, but with her legs. So in answer to all of your questions, I don't know. I don't know what has happened to Olivia. But she could surprise us one day, you never know. She was really starting to change. Her plumage was starting to really develop to be more like an adult, which is highly camouflage. So she could just be hiding in there and we just can't see her. But I do think it's definitely worth checking every single day. I tried to scan the area using the cameras and the binos, but it's very, very thick. Now these parents have experience as well. They've raised chicks to success to dispersal age before. So it could just be that they've moved her. One hopes. But it was fantastic anyway to at least spend some time with the adult. So we are going to continue our riverbed cruise and head up the Mulwatu.
Welcome back to the Mara. We've not left the particular spot that we are in. So this elephant bull has just come to join the rest of the elephants. And I can see another bull just over in the distance, just trying to court or maybe checking the other females. Is maybe one of them might be in distress. You can see him walking around and round, following the rest of the herd. So it seems like this is a bachelor joining that other bull. You can see the one that is standing tall. That's a bull. Bulls will always be bigger than the cows. So right here we are watching about, let's say, 80 elephants that have come at this particular spot. So we call these sometimes bond groups, groups that dispersed or broke away from the main herd. And as they do that, they always take along or go along with their blood relatives. So bond groups, when they split up, the big sisters or the big female sisters, maybe to the matriarch, will sometimes lead on their own families and become matriarchs. So once in a while, these herds will come together. They will mix up. They'll come in a common place, and then sometimes also split up and carry on, head to their respective places where they always go off to feed and drink. That elephant bull has plastered himself with mud, and you can see him flapping. He's not happy when that younger bull is coming to him. Leopard lover, have you ever touched an elephant skin, and how does it feel? Yes, I've touched elephant skin so many times. Elephant skin a little bit rough, hairy. They have long hairs on their body, a little bit rough. Under their ears, they're super soft. So where did I touch this elephant? So there's a nursery up in Nairobi called the Daphne Sheldrick Elephant Nursery. Excuse me. So that is a home for rescued elephants. So they bring the orphans taken from all over Kenya. And then when they get to an age of about 2.5, almost 3, they're taken further off to a reserve on a park called Tsavo National Park, where they go join other orphans who will lead them into the natural habitat. So yes, it's very, very rough on the outer coating or outer side, but under the ears are very soft, and they're also hairy. You can see more calves are gathered with their mothers, and some of the mothers are just touching the calves, and that is very important, because when calves are being touched by their mothers, sometimes that expresses affection, and also they do this they reciprocate where the calves will also touch their mothers. And sometimes when they want to suckle, that is what they always do, because we've seen some very small calves. When they want to nurse, when they want to suckle, you see them touching their mothers like, "Hey mom, would you please give me some milk?" Rosalind, at what age do elephants leave the herd? So the ones that only leave, Rosalind, are the males. And it's reckoned from the age of between 11 to 15, that is when they disperse off from their natal herds. So those teenage bulls, adolescent bulls, will carry on, head to a place where we call bachelorhood. So they'll join other older, younger bulls, that they'll always accompany themselves with older, mature bulls, like what we can see there. There's one big, very big bull there. So at the age of 11 to 15, that is when they disperse from these natal herds. So we have some people who want to come and see these elephants. So seems like a very nice place for elephants. Everyone wants to come and watch these elephants. Who doesn't love elephants? It's very important to have elephants in their natural habitats. So we also like it whenever we come across these herds, the social interactions. You can see there's a communication that is going through there. All of them are gathered. The youngsters are placed in the middle there.
Cruising the Mulwati, we've just came across a nightjar. I can't tell which species from this angle. Roosting, because they are nocturnal, on a branch of a tree. And all we can hear is that sort of constant, high-pitched screeching of the crickets nearby. So to some it's not so pleasant, but let's sit and admire this bird and listen to the real sounds of the bush. Now, because this beautiful nightjar is either nocturnal or crepuscular, we're going to let this little bird be and continue on our river cruise.
Yeah, the toppies didn't want to cross, but this one wanted to go and join them, but just as quickly as he appeared behind us, he has disappeared again in the long grass. This is what happens in the migration time. You come here at the river. There is always a lot of, oh, there's some zebra. Huh. Yeah, I didn't see those ones. They just appeared. You can see the tails. I don't know how many there are. The long grass, there's long grass there. But they could be wanting to go across. This is what we do in the crossing time, in the migration time. We come here at the river and park, and hopefully you don't have to wait for very long. I have waited for about 6 hours before, and it never happened. It's all part of the experience, but I've come here and it only lasted 5 minutes and they crossed. So it's a lack of draw. You arrive, and if luck is on your side, it might happen. Yeah, the Mara River. Craig, how fast can toppies run? Good question. Actually, topi is one of the fastest antelopes in these plains, and they are really hunted by most predators. Only, lions mainly hunt them, and hyena, but they can catch top speeds of up to around 70 kilometers an hour, and they can hold it for up to around 300 meters, making it, fast enough to be able to get away from most predators. The technique the hyenas use to hunt them is they find them in the morning when they are resting, in the morning sun, and surprise them when they are lying down. So they can outrun most animals. Recently, we have a new coalition of cheetahs, about 5 males in the Mara, and they have become masters in bringing down toppies. They are the only ones that are capable of bringing down a toppie from stalking to chasing. Most animals will give up because they run too fast. It is a coalition of 5 males, and they're strong enough. Those zebras, I think they wanted to come down, but they haven't made up their mind. There is one still to the right. Looks like it's coming down. I don't know if it's going away. I cannot tell exactly which direction the sun is shining on it. I cannot really tell. See it there, Bungay? Yeah, there. Looks like it's looking down to the water. Yeah, it sees us, definitely. Are you gonna cross for us? You can never predict what is happening here. You just come and hope something happens. Through experience, they know that these waters are not a walk in the park. It's full of crocodiles, and maybe they've lost their family members, and they can remember it's not easy. Is he gonna come down? I like zebra because when they come, they sometimes just go across. You can tell he's very tense. His mane is very rough and raised high, focused to the river. Wondering if do I go now or do we wait? Yeah, it's coming. Thinking always gets your adrenaline going up. Your heartbeat goes up when you see them come down like this. But every moment you're really hopeful they do what they've just done. It doesn't mean that it's over until it is over. One might decide, no, and why are we going? We came here to cross, so let's go. And then they go. But they might decide, okay, I think we do it tomorrow. And then they leave. They have a mind of their own. It's quite a good number of them there. I don't know where they came from. They were not there. I was looking at the toppies earlier on, but these guys appeared. It is very interesting, with the zebras. I think I'm gonna go closer to them so I can see how many there are, and also I can see down the river. Hopefully they can give us a show. Well, let me get to them and let's take you to another live location.
So Isaac gets a better view of those zebra that have snuck up on behind him. We are fortunate enough to have our own dazzle here. And we've got two males who are busy fighting with each other. Ooh, just passed wind when he jumped up. But this is very typical how they fight. You see how they're down on their knees? They're trying to bite the ankles of the opponent. They'll sometimes bite the belly, bite the ankle, bite the ears, the neck. When they're up, they will buck and rear at each other. So far, the darker male that's running on the back seems to be the winner. But sometimes the tables do turn. And maybe that's a stallion who's trying to intercept a group of females. So I do see mainly females around here and a couple of stallions. If we come off to the right, just over my head here, you'll see that there's a group of females here. And I'm not sure if that stallion is the dominant male of this group. But the female that's feeding kind of towards us on the right, she looks pregnant. And this time of the year, a lot of these females will be pregnant, and some of them would have already dropped their foals. And there are, in fact, some foals. So if we look over to where those giraffe are, and a little bit to the left of the giraffe, there's quite a small foal there. I don't know if you can see it there. So there's that dead tree in the distance, and then midway between us and the dead tree, there's maybe a week-old zebra foal there. Now, the mother won't be too far away. I'm sure it's one of those females that's around there that's busy feeding. And earlier on, there was one of the young giraffe was maybe a meter or so away from that foal, and they were busy checking each other out. But now those giraffe are moving off. And I wonder where the mother is. There is a female, looks like just behind a bush, maybe 10, 15 meters to the right of that foal. The foal generally won't go too far away from its mother, because this time of the year they will be very, very vulnerable to the attack of cheetahs, lions, leopards, even hyenas. As I did mention earlier, this part of the reserve, fortunately for that little zebra foal, there aren't any lions around here. They haven't been here for a while, and this area isn't renowned for hyenas. But there are leopards and there are cheetah. And so that young one does need to keep a close watch out. But what a fantastic scene. I can see a rhino. There's another rhino. Earlier on we had a female with a calf. And we've got another female with a younger calf there. Then a group of wildebeest, some of them standing busy feeding, and some of the youngsters busy lying down. I don't see any young calves with these wildebeest. The females should start to drop their calves soon. And then we're surrounded by quite a few giraffe, Southern African giraffe, who in fact also have some calves. So it is that time of the year when most of the grazers and some of the browsers will be having calves, although giraffe aren't seasonal and rhinos aren't seasonal. These wildebeest and zebra are. And this area, there will also be some impala. So lots and lots of babies around this time of the year. And that's what makes this time of the year so fantastic. Not only is the beautiful lush green grass and leaves out, all the migratory birds arrive, but a lot of people come on safari for this exact thing, is to see lots of youngsters. And on Pinda, we've got a variety of youngsters. So I mentioned earlier that yesterday a female cheetah with 5 youngsters were found. We know that one of our lionesses in Mountain Pride has given birth over the last couple of weeks. We haven't seen those cubs yet, but we know that they're denning. In the far north of the reserve, we've got lions with new cubs who are probably only a couple of weeks old. And then all these herbivores are all having youngsters as well. So we've got some of the giraffe now completely changed direction. I'm not sure why. Didn't seem that anything caused them to change direction up ahead. If there was a predator on the other side of the hill, I would have seen them watching intently. And that's what I've been hoping for this afternoon while looking for these cheetah. We have seen probably about 40 or 50 giraffe. And I've paid very close attention to the behavior of the giraffe. They're very fortunate with their very tall bodies and necks that they can see predators from a long distance away, and they'll often give their position away by just staring. And most of these journeys in this part of the reserve are about 10 or 15. So if you see 10 or 15 giraffes staring, it means that there's a predator probably off in that distance. If it's just 1 or 2 staring, it could be another group of giraffe, or maybe something else has caught their attention. Oh, we've got those. I'm just going to move a little bit forward. We've still got those 2 stallions busy fighting. Not going to go too far. I think that should be good. I wonder if it's the same 2. It doesn't look like the same 2 stallions. The one thing I noticed is that the stallion that ran chasing the other male had very thick stripes. I think on the road you can see those 2 on the left that are now pushing each other around. Those are the 2 that were chasing each other earlier. And then those other 2 on the right look like younger zebra just having a little bit of a push. But the fact that these 2 have been going at each other now for about 15 minutes or so, I do think this is definitely more than just play. It's a bit of a dominance battle. And they want to become the dominant male of this harem of females that's here with us. And looking at both of these males, doesn't look like they've have any obvious wounds from previous fights. Sometimes you'll see that a zebra will miss its tail, and that can often be from fighting like this, that they bite down so hard on the tail that they remove a big chunk, and infection sets in. There was a female that actually walked over to diffuse this fight that's happening. And so, very interesting. There's a couple of younger males off to the left. So I think this older male is just trying to discipline the younger males and put them in their place. But he is most certainly a fine specimen. Very beautiful stripes. We're going to go forward one more time. So one thing I absolutely love about zebra is that all of their stripes are unique, as you all know. And what I enjoy is thick, dark stripes like that male has. Just going to... Oh, there we go. If you have a look, we were speaking a little bit earlier about a zebra losing its tail. The far one on the left, it might be difficult to see. You've got to focus through the trees there, but you'll see maybe only a foot of tail, and then the rest of that tail missing. Now, they could lose that to lions. Lions trying to hunt them, jumping on from behind, biting down on the tail. But it normally happens when these males are fighting with each other. But what's interesting is that's actually a female, not a male. But sometimes females' tails get bitten off as well. Holistic, they could do this for a couple of hours, even days. If 2 males are very evenly matched and the male is quite determined to be able to take over a harem, then he will keep on continuing to fight until the dominant male of that harem will give up. But in the case like we saw now, where there was an obvious size difference and age difference between the 2 males, this is probably only going to go on for a couple of minutes to an hour or so. So So I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it is one of the things I love to do is just to stop and listen. I'm just going to stop and see if you can hear. But there's quite a lot of feeding going on around us with the zebra and the giraffe, and you can actually hear them feed. You can hear them pulling and tugging at the grass. One of the giraffe that's behind us, busy breaking branches. So they're pulling on that grass quite hard to be able to break it off. And that's why we're able to hear it. It's interesting, as we watch those rhinos feeding earlier, you very seldom or ever hear a rhino feed. Just the way that they sort of cut and pull at the grass doesn't make a lot of noise. Where zebra, they'll grip the grass with their teeth and pull quite hard. Now, although there's lots of giraffe around here, unfortunately for them, a lot of these trees and shrubs are quite low to the ground. So you won't see that very typical giraffe sort of feeding pattern where their heads are high up, reaching for what little leaves they can get to. These giraffes are all having to bend down and to feed on the guarri trees, and mainly in this area, all these acacias that are around here. You'll also notice while they're feeding on these trees, they tend to keep their heads down much longer than what they do when they drink water. So Astrodoom, if it is, let's say, two males that are fighting for a harem, a group of females, that male will then move off to a bachelor herd and will go and join. There could be a couple of males in that bachelor herd who have all been kicked out, older males, or a couple of younger males. Within the bachelor herd itself, there will often be fighting as well, because the males will be displaying dominance over each other, and that is largely due to the testosterone levels and the amount of testosterone that's flowing through them, which just causes them to want to be the dominant male of that particular group. And when those males fight, it's just very short and sweet, and then they'll carry on. But most certainly when these males are fighting for dominance, the male that gets kicked out will have to go find a bachelor. Now, quite interesting, something caught these zebras' attention. I don't know if you saw them run off maybe 10-15 meters, and then the other two are looking back now behind them. So it could have just been a bird that flew into a tree or flew out of the tree that gave them a bit of a fright. They're not alarming. If they were to see us a predator like the cheetah that we are in this area to look for, they'll make a sound that goes whoop, 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 and then we would most certainly know that they've seen something. That giraffe on the right there is looking in that direction, but because it's a younger giraffe, it's probably a little bit nervous and saw that the zebra ran off and would be a little bit concerned to why are they running off, because a young giraffe like that would most certainly be a target for predators. In the beginning of the year, a giraffe of this size was actually killed by the two dominant male cheetah that used to be in this area. So he's still very, or she, it looks like a young female, she's still very vulnerable at this stage. But the fact that she's already stopped looking in that direction and now looking to the direction of the other giraffe would tell me that there's not too much to worry about. But it's very typical herding behavior, what we saw there. Maybe one of the zebra got a fright. So I think that one of those zebra got a fright and it ran, and then so therefore all the other zebra just followed. Because you don't want to be the one stuck behind wondering, why is everyone running? So one runs, they all run. And in the moment that one stopped, and they all thought, okay, not too much we're going to have to worry about. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to continue on. We've spent quite a lot of time within a small part of the reserve here. I want to head back into the area where that cheetah and her 5 cubs was seen yesterday. But when I head over to there, I'm going to leave you guys with a very peaceful moment in nature.
Welcome back to the Mara. We are just watching a beautiful sunset. It's super colorful. I always love enjoying the sunset. Every day is just a different kind of setting where it looks like paintings. You can imagine how many paintings there are out here in the wild when the sun sinks down and when the sun is rising.
Welcome to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. We have just found the Birmingham Pride with the white lions, and it's cooling off so nicely in the wind at the moment, so everybody's starting to move. They're starting to yawn and groom. And it's unbelievable. They've moved a little bit from where they were this morning. They were a little bit further west on the reserve this morning. And I think it's because the sun came out, so they got a bit hot. They were in an open area, so they've moved a bit further to the east, under the shade of some guarri trees. But it's almost been like a chain event. One will get up and move, and then the next, and then the next. And that little one is watching where the white male has gone now. It's very typical of lions when they start looking around like this and watching what the others are doing. That little one might want to move. There you can see the white female's woken up. And it's because they're also smelling. As each lion gets up, they'll move off a little bit. They often urinate and they defecate. And that's what they can smell. It's an incredibly strong smell. I can smell it from here. There you can see her sniffing into the wind. The breeze is blowing towards her nose. Wow, look at that scar under her eye. And above the other eye. She's definitely been in a few feisty fights. But have a look at that eye color as well. I don't know why, but I've always felt she's one of the most beautiful lionesses of this pride. Not just because she's white, but she's got an incredible structure to her face. She's very feminine in a sense. I guess as feminine as a lioness can be. Nay, that is such a good question, especially, when you are still learning everything. So the lions have that black behind the ears. You can see it really well on that little cub. Not only as a sign to follow each other through the bush, because you can imagine this little one having to follow mum, would need something to follow in the long grass. So they're looking for those black marks behind the ears, even on the tip of the tail. But it also is theorized to serve as a warning sign almost. So if something comes up behind the lion, it looks like two eyes and the tail looks like a bit of a nose. And it almost looks like the lion is looking at you with those white tips on the top of the ears and the black below. And it might give something a bit of a fright and make it double guess going towards it from behind. But I remember when I was 12, we were actually on a Kruger Park holiday, and we spent the most amazing half an hour in a sighting very similar to this without the white lions, but it was a mom and little cubs, and they were actually playing with her tail, that black tip on her tail. And I'll never ever forget that. That black really sticks in my mind because of it. He's having a bit of a stretch. You can see her ears, behind her ears, Yoane, are actually brown and not black. That's because of the white color. The white male is the same. Even the tip of her tail is white. So that lioness looks like she's thinking about what she wants to do next. She's one of the bigger lionesses in the pride. You can see how muscular she is. And she was actually bigger than the Ross males when they took over this pride. The little cub's actually walking up behind her now. You can see, especially when they walk like that, why it's so important to have some form of dark marking behind so they don't completely blend in when they're trying to follow each other. Wanting a bit of attention from that lioness. we're actually very lucky to see them moving at this time because it is actually still incredibly hot. So I'm surprised that they are moving so much, especially since they're on such a good patch of shade. But I think it's also because the breeze has picked up, so it's cooled down a slight bit from what it was 20 minutes ago. Now she's sitting with her nose into the wind. You can definitely see that cub has had something to eat. Its tummy is full. So I think I'm going to sit here for a little while longer, maybe see if I can go around the other side of them and just see maybe they might wake up a bit more.
From the lazy lions to our semi-active lions, they just started walking. You can see they're swishing their tails and yawning. That's a sign of we have a mission to carry. We need to go on. We need to get up, stretch, and let's go find something to eat. So these are lionesses from the River Pride. It seems like it's a nice evening for all these lionesses, and it seems like it's going to be a busy night also. Sometimes you don't know what's hiding in the long grass, and these lions are up on a mission. It's time to drink. They are drinking on a small patch. You can tell they are nursing. Look at her teeth. Looks like she has carbs. She looks a little bit skinny. It's time to drink to get some energy before they go on a move. Because of the long rains that we've been having for the last 4 to 5 days, so the grass is much greener and there is enough food for most of the plains game. So these lions have to walk from their core pride area in search of food. So that tells you that they'll be on the move. They have to go find game. You can see how they're watching, scanning around. Very, very nice to see them in this lush green. Everyone is scanning and everyone is looking for food. And once they locate food, they'll do what we call a team. A team that they have to actually isolate and hunt. So this is not their den. So their den is not close to here. So it means that they've been looking for food for the entire afternoon because we are long away from their den. So I'm going to stick around with them, see what they're up to as I take you over to another live location.
Well, it's that time of day when the day says goodbye, and I have a nice big male giraffe here. Looks like he's limping. Looks like maybe a muscle pain from a fight. It's not very bad. He's gonna recover. He is a big boy, this one. And I think he's not one of those that we normally see because he's been staring at me like he hasn't seen me before. Yeah, really always taking a good look at us, trying to figure out why we stopped and why we are looking at them. Those are oxpeckers, and it's a symbiosis they have with the giraffe. Apart from warning the giraffe of predators, they also clean the giraffe, ridding it of ticks. Mainly, they are the main ones. You can tell that, yeah, he's got a little limp. It's not very bad. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, yes, he's got some pain. I think it's from a fight. Got hit hard on the upper side of his left leg. But it's not a threat. He will survive. Okay, continue with your business. Good. Fully grown ones like this will weigh up to around 1,700 kilos, and they don't have many predators. Only one that can really take down a fully grown giraffe is a lion, and it has to be a big pride to be able to really tire it and bring it down. Of course, the giraffe always never goes down easy. Being that big and that tall, they are equipped with those long legs, and they can actually leap forwards and hit with both forequarters and also hind legs. A kick that is so strong, it can actually kill a lion or even dislocate its jaw. So many predators will try and keep away from this beautiful animal. Experienced lions are the only ones that would go for giraffes. It's the Maasai giraffe, and it's same as the pattern on its body is different from one to the other. Always eating. They feed up to 20 hours a day and can go for a long time without drinking. By utilizing all the water, all the moisture in the leaves they eat, when they go to the bathroom, their urine is so thick, it's like syrup. Whenever they pee, in a few days the grass dies because of the concentration. I don't know if you can hear the frogs and the plovers. Yeah, definitely he's got a limp, you can tell. That is not very bad. I think it's from a fight. It will heal. Yeah, still looking at me. I have done something very wrong. Yeah, those kind of injuries heal quite fast. They have amazing antibodies, these wild animals, and actually it's not an open wound, it's internal, so definitely it was a big hit from another male giraffe. Yeah, he's still quite very interested with us. I think the best thing I can do is to leave him to do his business, because he's not used to seeing maybe vehicles at this time of day. And also maybe he came up from the escarpment or crossed the river from the other side, and he hasn't seen very many vehicles. Okay, let's take you to another live location while I leave this guy at peace.
Welcome back to the Mara, from the giraffe back to our lionesses, and they look like they're ready for the night, they're ready for a mission. You can see how they're scanning around, looking for game. So it's an advantage for them right now and the entire night because it's not hot. So lionesses or lions prefer hunting at night because at night they have an advantage of sight. They also have to walk long distances, and those long distances, walking in the cool of the night, it's also better. That is why we always see them during the day lying under shade of trees. There are flies that bother them during the day. So right now they are at ease, very happy lions. You can see they are all facial rubbing, which is also a bond that they enhance once they do that. Most members of the family will do the same. And when the lead lioness goes on the move, they also follow. Facial grooming, that is halo grooming, which enhances the bond. Very, very nice. And sometimes when they come back together, that is also what they do. It's just like a greeting. Their prowess in hunting has made me always want to watch these lionesses on the move. The river pride, I call them the master planners. They're always super efficient, they're super keen when they're going out for prey. I've seen them hunting, and it also excites me how they coordinate their hunt. Since we don't have prey around this area, that's why they're taking their time, stretching up, walking short distance and then lying down. But when they all become mobile, then that will mean business for the night. Daniel, always nice to hear a question from a 14-year-old. Thank you for your question. No, we don't have white lions here in the Mara. We only have a gene pool that makes lions the same color that we see here, a tan color, and big male lions with very dark mane. So, Daniel, we don't have white lions across Mara and even down to Serengeti. I can hear zebras snouting. So, seems like they've seen the zebras, but because of the long grass, I can't really see the zebras. Kaya, do lions use their whiskers to smell? Kaya, we have the front row of the whiskers, which we call them the vibrissae. Those whiskers act like the whiskers we see in mice and rats. They are also very important because they help the lions to feel or to get a close-up motion of whatever is walking close to them. So, for example, a lion gets hold of prey, and when they're choking the prey, those vibrissae can be able to communicate and pass that communication through to the lion that that particular species is almost dying off. Yes, they use that to feel the sense of something walking close to them. So we call them the vibrissae because they're very, very important. Yes, they use that, but not only to smell, but they can feel motion, and anything walking close to them can be detected. So to get to your answer, not really to smell, but they can also get a scent of whatever is around the lions. It's going to take a bit of time before these lions get close to their prey because it's open grassland, there's no cover, but sometimes they have an advantage of the long grass. But prey will always avoid places where there's long grasses. So I'm going to take you over to another live location. So let me change position. So changing position for these lions, it seems like they're on the move.
We seem to be having all the luck today with finding rhinos. We've had 2 sets of white rhinos with calves, and now we've been fortunate enough to find the elusive black rhino. And we have a male at the moment who's on his territory patrol. I'm sure in the next couple of minutes we'll see him spray again. It basically looks like a big fire hydrant as he walks around spraying his territory. So he's just lifted his head up, he's busy listening to me, busy chewing away at a branch there. And one of the reasons why this male is where he is right now is not just to mark his territory, but he's come to feed on these trees which have been burned, the recent fires that we had a couple of months ago. And black rhinos will target trees that have been burnt, and a little bit like sugarcane farms, when they burn the sugarcane, it releases sugars. We believe that it's probably the exact same with these trees. They're a little bit more sweet and nutritious for them after they've been burnt. So those heads down to the ground, and we will often discuss white rhinos' heads are down and black rhinos' heads are up. The only reason why his head's down to the ground now is he's busy feeding lower to the ground, but feeding on trees. But from this angle, the dead giveaway that it's a black rhino, as you'll see the big arch in his back, almost like a horse's saddle, and then the much shorter neck than what a white rhino would have. And in my opinion, ears that look a little bit like a hyena's ears. So earlier on we saw that white rhino female and her calf, when they walked downwind from us, reacting to the scent of our smell. If this male keeps on walking in about 50 meters, he'll be directly downwind from us, and it'll be interesting to see how he behaves, because we know that black rhinos and white rhinos often have very different temperaments. Black rhinos are perceived to be more aggressive. I don't think this male will be aggressive towards us, but he may show quite a bit of interest. And in some past experiences that I've had with adult males like this, On Phinda we have one or two males, and then when I used to work in the Sabi Sands, we had a black rhino male who also, when they walked downwind from you and they picked up your scent, they would actually walk right towards the vehicle. And once I almost had a black rhino rest its head on my bonnet, not that close, but maybe 2 or 3 centimeters away from resting his head on the bonnet. And it was one of those situations where I didn't know what to do. Do I start the engine to just push him away? Does he react to me starting the engine? So instead, myself and the guest just kept quiet. He had a bit of a look, a bit of a smell, and then he carried on walking like he is now. But I think that this male's too far away now to be that interested. Oh, there he's busy spraying. Often you'll see them scraping as well, but this male hasn't been scraping when scent marking. Just a little quick little spray, and then he carries on and walks. With the recent rains that we've had, all the territorial animals like lions and leopards and these black rhino, they're going to have to start to spray their territories again, because the rain would have washed away any bit of scent mark that they've put down, therefore allowing new males to come in and think, oh, there's no other territorial male in this area, maybe I'll have this for my territory. And so very typical after rain to see quite a aggressive sort of scent marking from these territorial animals that we have here. But what spectacular views that we have over here, and where I'm sitting at the moment, I can see this black rhino. Off in the distance I can see at least one big elephant bull in one of those open areas, sort of 45 degrees to the right of this black rhino. Got wildebeest, some zebra. I think very far I can see some more white rhinos. And then the Ubombo Mountains off in the distance with a little bit of sun still on them. And the rolling open grassland hills that we have here in the southwest of the reserve. We can be very grateful for this bit of cloud cover that we have, because it has been really hot over the last couple of days. And I think had we not had clouds today, all the rhinos that we have seen would have been sleeping and resting in the shade, only probably waking up around about now as it starts to cool down. So one problem with summer is that although it's great to go on safari and see lots of babies, there's a very short window in the morning and the evenings where these animals are active. This black rhino is starting to disappear a little bit. He's not too far from us, but it's something I always find so amazing about elephants and rhinos. They're these massive animals, but they can disappear quite easily, and you could very easily drive past this black rhino if he didn't move. This darker color, grey skin that he has, particularly in a burnt area like this, he camouflages beautifully well with all these burnt acacias and sycamore bush. And right now it does seem like he is eating on sycamore bush, which is a tree that is actually responsible for quite a lot of punctures that we get as guides when we're off-roading following these animals. That's why you'd be very risky to off-road to follow this black rhino, because quite a high chance of getting a puncture here, but yet this male isn't bothered by the thorns at all. Glenn, you're asking if rhinos see in color. They do not see color in the same way that we would see color, and their eyesight isn't quite black and white as what you would imagine black and white to be. But yes, they unfortunately do not see color like we would see color. Out here, there's actually very few animals that see in color. There's birds, not all birds, but a lot of the birds see color, and then primates would see in color. But for everything else, it is a form of black and white. So a large male like this will probably be spending the next hour or so feeding. And one of the big differences that you find with black rhinos and white rhinos is that black rhinos, and particularly male black rhinos, are very active at night. And it's not uncommon to be at a waterhole in the pitch of the dark and seeing a black rhino come down to drink. And there's places in Africa, and there's one in Namibia, where 10, 20 black rhinos can come together, and although you normally see them fighting with each other, it's almost like there's a truce around the waterhole. And in this area where we're at the moment, I suspect it is the same that would happen here. There's not a lot of water in this area, and there is quite a lot of black rhinos in this area, and so I think that all of them would probably have to drink around the same waterhole. And both with black rhinos and white rhinos, although their territories are around waterholes, and their territories will often overlap around waterholes, when they come to the water, they are quite peaceful. They have this understanding that it is important to allow their competitors to be able to drink. So Cassie, you're asking how many teeth do a rhino have? And I actually read this recently. I was going through all the teeth of the animals, trying to learn them all. And I think I made the mistake to learn too many at once. And I must be honest, Sassy Cassie, I cannot remember. So I think it's always a good opportunity for the thousands of listeners out there and watchers out there to see if any of you can tell me what or how many teeth a black rhino has. And I'll be interested to see if anyone can get it without having to use Google, which is a little bit of a challenge, because unfortunately in this day and age we like to Google everything. But I'm sure that someone out there knows exactly how many there is. And that this male, with the teeth that he would have, they would be molars, and he would use those teeth to just grind away at the thorn trees that he's busy feeding on. And I'm sure that there's quite a few of you out there. And if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere around 30. I think it's 24, 25 to about 32, 34. Yeah, it was far more. I remember it being far more than what I remember. But let's see. All right, FC has just told me that I am correct. They say it is around that amount. I think it's 24 to 34 teeth that a black rhino will have. Sometimes I just have to jog my memory a bit to figure it out. Oof, there's a massive elephant bull. I don't know if you can get it there walking through the open areas. That is a big, big boy. I don't know if it's the big tusker that we have here on Pinda, but it is body-wise very close to being as big as that one big tusker that we have. And he's come to the southern parts of the reserve to feed on the grass that would occur in this area. And in summer, they actually feed very differently on grass than what they would in winter. In summer, you'll see that when feeding on grass, they're trying to just break the grass off above the roots and get the nice lush green stems of the grass. Whereas in winter, with the sun beating down on that grass and drying it up, if you do see them feeding on grass, they'll pull the grass out and then feed on the roots, which would have what little nutrients is left in that grass. But this elephant and many more will be in this area where we are now to almost solely feed on this grass. Two very different feeding behaviors of elephants and rhinos. This black rhino is strictly browser, strictly feeds on trees, where elephants have a very varied diet, and that bull will feed on whatever is nutritious around.
Now we've just arrived at Treehouse Dam, hoping to see some life, but sadly not much is going on here. It's very quiet. Well, not that quiet, you can't hear the birds. So I will give you my updates in just a moment, but let's just take a minute or so to listen to the sounds. Isn't it just magical around the waterhole? We are on our way back to the nest. It's filled with the Helmich Shrike chicks. And once I get there, I'm going to give you all my updates.
So we've got the whole Birmingham Pride in front of us on the move through the most beautiful golden light. And they're actually headed straight towards some zebras we saw earlier. So you'll see they're actually very, very alert, walking straight into the wind. And they're absolutely stunning in this light. Look at that sunset starting to form over the Drakensberg mountain. How the light is catching the tips of the grass as well. So that's the young white lioness. You can see she started flattening her head a little bit. We've got the whole pride coming through behind her. Look at that in that light. I think this might be my favorite sighting of the Pride this year, just because of how beautiful this light is. It's so unusual for us to see them moving in this golden light, and it is perfect. You can see how it's even picking up those tiny little hairs in the ears. And that stunning golden light. So this is actually one of my all-time favorite areas on and beyond Ngala, because it is so beautiful. It's open, it's flat, and the sunsets here are phenomenal. actually love how the light catches his beard as he walks into the gaps. There's the white male behind him. Look how much bigger the white male is. Unbelievable. So it's incredibly special to see any pride of lions moving at this time of the day. Normally they're flat, but this breeze has picked up beautifully. And so I think they're taking advantage of that because it's blowing straight towards them from the zebra. They're taking the chance while the zebra are less alert to start moving slowly that way. They can definitely smell them because they'll stop and sniff the air and go straight in that direction. Just have a look at that stunning sunset starting over the Drakensberg. Lincoln, the white lions, it depends on the situation. They might hang back during a hunt, but actually the female is quite close to the front of the pride at the moment. And I don't think they realize that they're different. So unless one of the others maybe disciplines them for maybe destroying the probability of a hunt, I don't think they'll know to stay behind. So I think in any normal sense, they'll just be wherever they're comfortable in the pride. Oh, look at the tiny one in front. So the two youngest are kind of lagging behind a bit because they can't walk as fast. But they've also been lagging with that Birmingham young male. And it's incredible. Lions are so social, and so if somebody gets left behind, they actually wait for that individual to catch up. So they'll rest a bit more frequently if somebody's a bit slower. What's really fantastic about this is we get to actually stick with them while they're moving, and this is not something we get to see often, especially in this kind of a situation where we've got all of them moving. They're all moving at different speeds. And we actually get to stick with them. And it's not something you get to see often. So I'm incredibly happy. What I actually want to do is go around to the front of them and see if we can catch them in that beautiful golden light again. So I'm going to reposition a little, go off towards the right again and see if we can catch up with those few at the front. So this area is particularly good for lions because there's enough cover to hunt. So I think I'm going to stick with them for a little while longer, see if we can get to the front of them, and hopefully we see some action a little bit later.
Now we've came back to the nest on this Combritum here. Russet bush willow. Why? Because the sort of events that we're seeing here are rare, as far as I know, unusual, and, well, we didn't find any answers. So some of you reached out and you suggested that these chicks that we can see may be the chicks of the chin-spot batis. But I have to say I do disagree. I have tried to reach out to many different people and experts in our network, and the general consensus is that these are the chicks of the white-crested helmet shrikes. Why is the chin-spot batis feeding them? Now, there's a few theories, and when I say theories, they've been provided by people, really knowledgeable people, and I guess we don't have the answer. So one was proposed that there could be a chin-spot batis nest in the area. They look slightly different from this nest, and sort of instinct is driving these birds to feed the chicks. So because their nest is nearby, they're obviously feeding their own chicks. And then when they hear the calls or the cries of the helmet shrike chicks, instinct kicks in, and they automatically go to these chicks and feed them. Instinct is powerful, and especially with birds. They're reacting to audio, they're reacting to sound, they're reacting to the sounds of youngsters, offspring in need of food. So that was one of the theories that was proposed, and another sort of idea was possible cohabituation. Or is there a single chin spot batis chick in there? And why I changed that to singular is because I don't think there's room for much else, to be honest. It's a very tight squeeze in there. I've gone through all of my photos, we've gone through all of the footage, because it's remarkable what we're seeing. But I don't see another chick that's from a different species. I don't think there's a chin spot batis chick in there. So I'm not sure they're cohabiting. But it's fascinating. I went through all the footage, and the chin spot batis is definitely feeding them. It's spiders. It's little spiders, little dewdrop spiders, and definitely dropping it into the mouths of the chicks. Now, I talk regularly about energetics, or energy economy, and your energy budget. So it's just so surprising to see another species feed chicks that are not their own. And I wonder if it is just instinct, the drive. You're feeding your own chicks, and then you hear the cries of these chicks. The shrikes and the batis are not enemies. They're not going to harm one another or prey on one another. And you're always welcome to share your theories. We do appreciate it. But it's just such a remarkable thing that we're seeing. And from what I can gather, it's relatively rare. And we spoke about brood parasites earlier as well. And they're birds that make use of sort of host parents to brood and rear their young, so they don't have to do it. They don't build nests. They don't play any parental role whatsoever. And only about 1% of all bird species in the entire world use brood parasitism. There's sort of 5 main groups that do it. It's your cuckoos, they're the famous ones. You got your honey guides, they also do it. Indigo birds, whydas, and the cuckoo finch. They're very well known for doing that, but not these species that we're looking at right now. The chicks look really grumpy. I think they're hungry. So I just wanted to come back to this nest to give you all that update. And Christine, you're saying these shrikes are fascinating, aren't they just? We were actually discussing this morning, sometimes when you just sit, don't drive, don't bumble and rush around. We've been on Torchwood all afternoon with Tandy's cub, but sadly, he was in a very, very, very tricky spot. It just wasn't possible to get signal. Tandy's cub, why you do that? But yes, sometimes when you just sit and watch, you end up seeing the most spectacular things. And we were so surprised to see not only the male chin spot batis, but the female, both of them, because they look different in appearance, delivering spiders to the... Oh, see, this is the shrike coming in. They're going to feed. I feel like I need to adopt this technique of just opening my mouth and seeing if anything falls in. Maybe Theo will feed me if I do that. So this is a white crested helmet shrike. But I also learned this morning, because they're cooperative family breeders, it's the siblings that normally feed. So this might actually not be mom or dad. I don't think you can fit in there. It's rather a tight squeeze as it is. Oh, And what we also watched this morning is how they defecate. I'm not sure that's a comfortable scenario. Now the birds turn the other way, so their bottom is facing over the edge of the nest, and they release a fecal sac. So it's how they defecate. It's their feces, I guess, but it's contained in a little sac of mucus for easy passage and dropped over the side of the nest, so it doesn't sort of create really unhygienic situations in that tiny little nest. Oh, this is so lovely. Now, one way to identify the chicks, don't know if you'll be able to see it, but if you look right at the end of the beak, right at the end, there's a hook. You see it? There's a very, very sharp, tiny little hook coming from the upper beak. The chin spot batters don't have that. You have to look really, really careful at the chicks, so you can see it on the adult. Relax, and I have no idea. I definitely do not know the gender of the chicks. We've only just clarified the species. Never mind the gender. I do not know, I'm afraid. We've only just started unraveling this mystery, but gender-wise, I have no idea. Sorry. With a lot of bird species, it's very, very difficult to tell the sexes when they're adults. Never mind chicks. Sometimes it's a size comparison. But in the helmet shrikes, the white-crested, the ones we're looking at, they're very, very alike. The females are said to be slightly bigger than the males, but otherwise you would probably have to do a genital check of the birds. It's almost impossible to tell. I feel like you're squashing the chicks. Please don't squash them. But I hope you all see that tiny little hook at the end of the beak. That's a key feature in figuring out that it's the helmet shrike. Because they don't really look anything like the adults. They just look like fluff balls. Grumpy fluff balls. Woodland kingfisher in the background there. Hey ho, I'm not really sure how they do it, what's the mechanism, but on observation, watching for a long period of time, I think we sat here for about 45 minutes this morning, and each chick got fed equally. I don't know if it's visual or if it's through scent. I really don't know how the adult actually keeps track. It's a good question, but upon observation, it was definitely each chick got fed individually. No one was omitted or left out. So I believe there might be some activity at the hyena den, and we are very, very close by. So I think we might do a U-turn and just try and see that we're not missing anything at the den. That was such a wonderful sighting. Both Trishala and I will definitely come and check this nest every single day. But for now, I'm off to see the other youngsters.
So we've managed to come and find the youngsters of the two, or the Biala pride. So we can really only see the one youngster now. And then the mother's lying off to the right. But there is 3 of them there. And then the rest of the pride is not too far away from them, but unfortunately we can't see them where they are here. And normally on a hot day you would expect them to be lying underneath the trees on the right. But it's cooled down quite nicely. And they've come out into the open area where they're able to get a little bit of the cooler wind coming through. But then also giving them the opportunity to scan the area to see what potential, oops, I then just put that one on the backside, to scan the area and see what potential prey there is up ahead. And behind us and also behind them is lots of open areas where all the zebra and wildebeest are going to come and sleep for the night. But they have to walk through a couple of thickets to get there. So I think that this lioness is probably just waiting to see if there's a good hunting opportunity. If she sees something, she'll tell her 2 little cubs to stay put or move off into the thicket, where they'll just watch her hunting off in the distance. And they'll have to wait patiently for her to catch something, and then they'll run off after her. But for now, I think that they're just going to be sitting there and relaxing until there's an opportunity to hunt a little bit later.
Reports of loud hyena vocalizations coming from the drain. Look at the culprits. No adults, so we're going to give you a 20-second view. We've just arrived and it sounded like there was adults. Something like that. And it was coming from you lot. Everybody's out. Gwazi, Shambulu, Hearts 2, and Cork's little one. It's been quite the day for the spotted hyenas. They've all got pillow face. They've just woken up. They could have possibly have been responding to an adult. I'm not sure. But the noise that was reported was coming from the cubs. So everyone, I'm going to say goodbye. Yes. You gave us lots of fun and joy this morning, so that's okay. You ready, Theo? Theo also looks sad. And I feel sad. But that's okay. I got to see you guys this morning. Bye-bye. And they can all hoop now. I've seen every single one of them doing it, including Corky's daughter, who's the smallest, and the youngest can really, really hoop and really vocalize. So they're turning into quite the little hyenas. And hyenas actually have 14 different types of vocalizations. 14. That all convey and communicate different things. And within a clan, they can all recognize each other's 14 different calls. So if there's 10 people in your clan, or people, hyenas, 10 hyenas in your clan, you'll recognize 140 different calls. There's 50 hyenas in your clan, well, I'm not sure I can do that maths, but you know where I'm going with that. And that just emphasizes a hyena's cognitive ability to be able to recognize, audio only, not visually, the call. 14 of them, of every single member in your clan. And if you think of the North Clan in the Masai Mara, that's a lot of individuals. They're also said to be able to recognize each other chemically, so by scent, and visually. That's incredible. I'm not entirely sure we could recognize each other by scent. Some people, possibly, may have an interesting smell, or those of your loved ones you may be able to recognize. But we are highly visual as human beings, and we have facial recognition, so we recognize each other visually. But imagine being in a hyena's umveld and recognizing each other through calls. And they respond to one another, and the whooping is to communicate. So the sun is starting to go down. It's very, very sort of cool now, compared to earlier for sure. And they're starting to communicate. They're probably wondering, adults, where are you? And where's our dinner? I would be wondering the exact same thing. But we could hear the whooping from the nest, and it was also reported it's in very close proximity to one another. Paul, yes, all predators will kill one another's offspring, absolutely. If it's offspring that you're referring to. So when it comes to the sort of predator hierarchy, lions, leopards, wild dogs, hyenas, cheetahs, they will all kill one another's offspring, absolutely, because it's interspecific competition. Even intraspecific within the species, they'll kill one another's cubs. Now, an adult, if you're asking about adults, lions would try, absolutely. I don't necessarily think a leopard would. They have a very complicated relationship. But if a lion could catch a hyena, they absolutely would eat it. And what we need to understand about the predators is that they're all opportunistic. Every single one of them, they're not going to pass out on a free meal. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to feed. Life out here in the wild, it's feast or famine. Oh, look at that skyline. That's really beautiful. Theo's just going to give you a view of the skyline. But yes, it's feast or famine. You don't know when your next meal is coming. Now, right now it's summer, and there's, well, lots of impala lambs around. It's definitely a feast. But winter can bring drought. It can bring sort of famine for the predators. And I've also seen hyenas eat other hyenas. If there's a dead hyena on the ground, most likely a hyena will eat it as food. I know it's very difficult for us to think that way. yes, to go back to your question, Info, many of the predators would eat hyenas. Snakes would also try and kill the cubs. Everything out here has got to survive. Stuck in bed, yes. It's stunning. The last of the light streaking across the sky. I completely agree with you. Sometimes you've got to just stop, and I'm talking about myself, and just take it all in. That's what we did yesterday when we heard Kalamba sawing. She's quite the vocalizer these days. So Theo and I might enjoy this moment a little bit longer, but we're going to send you lot off to another live location.
So as usual with lights, we've got a bunch of very lazy cats here. And unfortunately, unlike Lauren, who at least has a beautiful sunset to watch, this cloud cover has completely destroyed our sunset, but not a bad second to watch lions, even though they are sleeping. Although they have started to seem a little bit more active. So now with the rest of the Biala Pride, the female with the two youngsters was the ones that we were with earlier, and we're here with I think just one adult female and then the 3 sub-adult males. And you'll often find in a situation with a pride like this, when there's a bit of an age gap between cubs, almost a year or so, I think, if I'm correct, between these cubs and the other female's cubs. And particularly when the youngsters are males like we have here, you often won't see the females with the youngsters all together. So there's a bit of a segregation, because these sub-adults will bully the small cubs in this pride. So the female with the younger cubs will tend to just keep their distance a bit. And that doesn't mean they don't come together, but often when they sleep, they're kind of just separate for a bit. And then the females will all go off and hunt and then bring the cubs to the kill together, where there will be a bit of argy-bargy and a bit of a pecking order, with these older sub-adult cubs getting to feed on the majority of the carcass, where those younger ones won't be able to feed on much. And sometimes if they even catch a small prey like a baby impala, which we see quite a lot of this time of the year, and the lions are catching quite a few of them, the female with the younger cub might actually continue on hunting to try find something else for her 2 cubs to be able to feed on. But right now, I think that hunting is the last thing on the minds of these lions. I think they're just wanting to gain some of the energy. That being said, flies are frustrating her. You'll see she's flicking her ears, flicking her tail. Oh, we've got one of the youngsters up at the moment. Let's see where he's going to. You'll see one of the young males with the Bit of a mohawk. Anosa, who is 10 years old, you're asking, why do lions sleep so much? And I think it's not a straightforward question, Anosa. It comes down, they don't necessarily sleep as much as what you might think. So people say that lions sleep for about 20 hours of the day. It's not really sleeping for that time. It's more resting. So lions tend to rest for about 20 hours a day, which is quite a lot. And one of the reasons that they tend to rest that much is because they can. And I know that sounds like a silly answer, but it is the truth. With all the predators, they are the largest of the predators that we have here in Africa. So there's not too much that they need to worry about. So they don't need to walk with other predators. Lions are also territorial, and so they very seldom will come across each other because they're all in their territory. And so what they would rather do is sleep and conserve energy, because if you can do that, or if you can afford to do that out in the wild, it is key to survival. Save as much energy as you can, so when you go off to hunt, you can use as much of your energy to be able to catch whatever you're trying to chase. I'm just going to reposition while I answer this question. To be able to catch whatever you're chasing. Or if for whatever reason you come across other danger, whether it be male lions that aren't your father, or part of the pride, or just a completely different pride, you want to have as much energy as you can to be able to defend yourself, or at least run away from that danger. So yes, they rest for 20 hours because they can, but it is also so they can save as much energy as they can for when it counts. All right, I'm just going to position so it's comfortable for us to be able to view them. One of the youngsters has come out into the open, which is lovely, and then as we were repositioning, his brother also came out of the thicket and came to lie next to his mother. So in the back there, you'll see the female and the one brother of this male. And if you were to come across these cubs and you had no idea if they were males or females, at this age it is very easy to be able to tell. From about 6-8 months already, you'll start to see a little bit of the mane coming through. But at about a year and a half, you'll see quite a bit of that mane, which you can see on this male. It's got quite fluffy cheeks, and well, more so towards the rear end or the back end of his cheekbones. You'll start to see that mane coming through, that mohawk, and quite a lot of mane on his chest. And it's only going to get thicker, it's only going to get longer, and it's only going to get darker. Did you see what I did there? I took the word longer and darker, and I made one word, and I called it larker. Maybe we can make this word go viral, larker. He'll only get larker with his mane. It's still a long time till he has a nice, long, dark mane. You'll notice that something's caught his attention. Let me have a look. It's probably a wildebeest. I saw a herd of wildebeest in that area. I believe the viewers are busy larking at the moment at my correct use of the English words and meshing them together, which is something I tend to do quite a lot. I think my brain, or my mouth, works faster than my brain. Yep, he's just watching. Looks like 3 or 4 wildebeest off in the distance. Looks like some large males and maybe a couple of females with it. And far too big for him to be able to hunt. But that doesn't mean he won't watch them, and he won't hope that maybe his mother will get up to hunt. But unfortunately, this area that they're in at the moment, the grass is just too short. And with it being very cloudy tonight, it is going to be a great opportunity for these lions to hunt. There will be very little light due to the moon not being able to shine through these clouds and the stars brightening up the sky, and thus allows them to move through open areas like this from thicket to thicket, or what little thickets there are, without being noticed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come look for these lions tomorrow to see them panting quite heavily, full of bellies. It does look like they have eaten recently. I believe this morning that they were busy playing with a head of a warthog, which tells us that probably yesterday, During the day, they may have caught a warthog. Warthogs would be sleeping at night. They would have gone into their burrow. In fact, I'm sure most of the warthogs are in their burrow now, because they know that lions and leopards, who are their main predators, will be out and about at this time. So they're in safety. That doesn't mean lions don't catch warthogs at night. I have myself actually seen lions digging at a warthog burrow to be able to get the warthog out. But I don't expect a pride with so few females or pride members to do something like that. You generally see it with much larger prides, and often when there's males around, they tend to try and dig out warthogs if the poor old warthog went to rest in a burrow that's not too deep. So Kaya, lions have that black part at the end of their tail, is what you called it. There's a few reasons for that. So one thing with animals is body language is quite important, and that tail is very visible. And so if a lion is frustrated, something that you will see is that tail will flick around quite a bit. This young male's just seen a guinea fowl that's walking his direction, and that's what he's chosen to watch. I don't think he's going to be able to catch it. So yeah, like I was saying, Kai, it's a visual representation. You'll actually see that tail flicking from side to side, up and down. Just makes it visually easier to see. You also notice behind the ears, they've also got black behind the ears, which they'll fold down, and when they fold it down, it actually points a bit forward. So if you're looking straight at a lion and you can see the blackness of the ears and you can see the tail flicking from side to side, which would be easily visible by the black tip, you know to keep your distance. And then the other theory is it acts a bit of a follow me sign. So in winter, when the grass is very yellow, and if the lions are walking through yellow long grass, it could maybe be difficult to see the mother. And so the cubs would be able to follow the mother where she's walking by seeing the black tip of the tail. A lot of animals have a follow me sign. One as much. I'm pretty sure a lion would easily be able to see its mother walking through the grass. I think it's got largely to do with the visual representation of their attitude that they're showing, or the aggression that they're showing. And then also at the tip of the tail, it is just a completely different sort of structure of hair. The black hair on a lion, whether it's behind the ear or on the tip of the tail, or a male that's got a thicker mane, the diameter of that hair is actually much thicker than that of the lighter colors of the lion. Now, I don't know if that might help with a bit of extra balance, having that thicker pom-pom at the end of the tail and the darker color being a little bit heavier if it was lighter. That's maybe my own little theory. I'm just thinking. I'm not saying this is a fact, but maybe there's a bit of a help to that. And if you also see what they're doing right now, they're busy flicking at flies. So at the tip of the tail, they're going to want to have that pom-pom to help flick away any flies, and then maybe to allow for a heavier, thicker tip of the tail. It helps if it's black, so that diameter then is therefore a little bit wider per hair follicle. Shame, you'll see this male is being attacked by flies. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get up at some point and walk off. I've seen adult male lions of around 9 years old be so frustrated with flies that he got up and he ran as fast as he could. I actually thought he was attacking me. So he was lying probably as far as what those further lions are, that lioness is. And he decided to get away from those flies, is that he was going to run in my direction. And I thought that this was it. My life's over. This lion has decided to eat me, which of course we know that they don't do. And a lion would never just jump up and attack you anywhere. They would show you by their body language. But he got up and ran as fast as he could. He probably got from that distance to my vehicle in about 2 seconds. I didn't even have time to think. But then I soon realized that he was just trying to get away from the flies, because he did it about 2 or 3 times after that. Every time the flies land on him, he would snap at them and then just get up and run. But I hope I never have to relive that moment again, because I did most certainly see my life flash before me. Casper, a lion would typically last without feeding for about a week, week and a half. It does depend on what they're fed on. So let's say that these lions haven't fed for a couple of days and they're able to catch a young impala. Now, a young impala, there's 4 lions here with us at the moment, and then 3 off in the distance. So between these 7 lions, a young impala is not going to go very long. So they're then going to have to hunt very soon, because a week and a half in the future, they're going to struggle a bit. But if they're able to feed on something very large like buffalo, hippo, rhino, for whatever reason a rhino, say they come across a dead rhino and they're able to feed to their maximum full capacity, they could easily get to about a week or so, and you wouldn't see obvious signs of malnutrition or at least starvation. But then even at that point, about a week and a half, you would then start to see them get really, really skinny. So they typically don't let them get to about a week without feeding. On average, they're trying to make about 2 kills a week, just to make sure that they are well fed. But then, Casper, you read those horrible stories of zoos who have shut down for whatever reason, and they've just left the animals lying in their cages, and those lions have stayed for weeks without feeding, but then they just get far too skinny and almost unable to walk, and a lion in the wild would never be able to survive like that. If he gets to the point that he's not able to walk and move around, he would be picked off very quickly by other lions or hyenas. So I'd say about a week and a half, and then you would start to see the condition drop dramatically to the point where they become too weak to maybe hunt for themselves or defend themselves against other predators. So the guinea fowl moved off, and that is why he completely... Oh, I just thought I heard some lions roaring, but it was the wind blowing through the vehicle. The guinea fowl moving off, he's lost any interest in trying to hunt it. But at this age, they will try and hunt anything that they can. A young male like this will try and catch birds, and I've in fact seen young lions catch birds before. I think it was a bird that just wasn't concentrating.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. So we're actually busy driving along, and I thought I spotted what could be a leopard. So I'm actually just going to have a look with my binoculars. And you know what it is? It's a log. Leopard logs are a real thing. So what we're actually doing is, I've decided it's a good time to go down to the riverbed. We heard some baboons alarm calling earlier. So what I want to do is, there were actually leopard tracks around. I want to head down to the river and just see if maybe we can see something crossing, because it's a fantastic time for hyenas but also for leopards to be around. I still can't believe the sighting that I had today with the Birmingham Pride. I think that's why I'm seeing cats everywhere, even if they're logs. This particular section is really, really stunning. You can see lots of tall trees around me with little open areas in between. And I think after the golden light, I really do enjoy this time of day. It's nice and cool, the insects are waking up. Some frogs around as well, I can hear them. Isn't it funny when a good old leopard log gets you? There's got to be at least one every day. I think a sighting like the Birmingham Pride today really just makes you appreciate that what I do is just so special. There is nothing that compares. And if I could try and describe the temperature to you, it is the definition of perfect right now. Right, so we're about to drop down into the Timbavati riverbed. Young lions will defend their territories in quite a few ways, and they keep their territories as long as they can. So a pride would always try and keep their territory within the same area as long as there's enough food and water. And they'll defend it not only by scent marking, but also by roaring, by moving regularly throughout the territory to make sure that the whole territory smells like them. And the males especially will actually go and patrol. So the Ross males, for example, within this territory, they cover 3 or 4 different prides within that territory of theirs. So the prides themselves have smaller territories, but the males have bigger territories. So they'll be the fathers of all of those cubs. And so what they do is they actually move from pride to pride, spend a bit of time with each. And then on top of that as well, they'll spend some time on their own, just patrolling the edges, roaring, scent marking by rubbing their cheeks on things, by urinating on bushes. And any sign of an intruder, they'll then go straight towards that and defend it by attacking those lions if they haven't moved away. I'd actually be interested to know where the Ross males are tonight compared to the rest of the Birmingham Pride. It's a good time of day for them to be scent marking and roaring and patrolling right now because it's so nice and cool and this light is very tricky to the eye. It's just that changeover where you're not quite sure what you're seeing. So I think we're going to keep going down this riverbed. I'm hoping for a sign of a leopard, but it's just such a stunning evening to enjoy on drive.
We're just sitting here very peacefully trying to show you the sheet lightning that we can just see off in the distance. The lilac breast. Did you see it? The lilac-breasted roller, the silhouette. Now don't worry about the lightning, it's very, very far away. But you can just see it. It's not forked lightning. Let's see if we can go a wee bit closer to here. And wait for one more flash of lightning. If there's lightning above us, we have to power down, of course. You see that? Magical. The roller didn't think it was very magical. Oh no, it did. It's back for more. Oh, my goodness. I think it was Vicky. You're asking what is my favorite memory as a guide. Oh, these favorite questions get us every time. In case you can't hear the cogs in my brain turning, they are. Oh, that's such a tricky question. I have had the most incredible, wonderful time here and in the Masai Mara. I've been able to share it with you all. But I think maybe one of the most incredible moments for me was finding ribbons, boys, We didn't know they were boys at the time. But I'm still believe that they were only a day old, and Ribbon was exhausted from just giving birth. And I actually started weeping on live TV, which is not ideal. But I think that was one of my highlights. I'd been following Ribbon. I adore Ribbon. I knew she was pregnant, and just being in the right place at the right time and having enough patience to witness the birth of her 2 sons was really, really incredible. But that's just one of many. It's still flashing. The sky is alive. Let's just see if we can catch the lightning once more, Theo. I wonder if something's rolling in. The summer storms have really arrived. They took their time, but they've arrived. Wow. Now this happens in the low veld at summer from different pressure cells in the atmosphere. And with the thunderstorms comes rain. And rain, although it's very green here, more rain is yet to come, and we need it. As I keep mentioning, we're not quite in the full bloom of summer yet. We're in summer, yes, but not at its peak. Isn't it so peaceful? There was an elephant grazing nearby, but we lost him as we were trying to keep track of this lightning. Wow, that was forked. Normally you can feel the energy before a storm. The unstable air is essentially what creates a thunderstorm, and you can normally feel it coming. I firmly believe all the animals out here are well aware when a thunderstorm is coming, long before we are. They're very aware of changes in weather. Changes in weather patterns, even things like earthquakes, long before we are. Even in the ocean, fish will react to an earthquake that hasn't even happened yet. Before we even know it's going to happen, they've reacted, they're aware of it, they can feel it, and that is just incredible. We are clueless, and if we're not clueless, we need technology. You can see how dark it's getting. Just in that space of 5 minutes, we've lost a lot of ambient light. Is that a star you're showing us there, Theo? Well, it has came to that time, everyone, where we must say goodnight. But of course, more importantly, thank you everyone for jumping on board. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night.